Thank you so much. Thank you especially to Belinda and Karat for bringing all of you together from the corners of the earth. It's really, it is the time. The time really is now. It's not only your time, but it's the world's time. And it's the time for the G8 to really step up. G8, G20, sorry. Especially the G20 to step up to those issues that we know will make a difference, where investment really does pay. I've just come from an amazing conference in Washington. It was the Women Deliver conference. And it was to remind the world that women deliver far more than babies. Yes, they do deliver babies, and it's a real treasure when that happens, and when it happens safely. But women deliver both social and economic benefits to our families, to our communities, and to our nations. And it is in our nation's interest that they do that as well as they can, with support, encouragement to do that. So when I was thinking about what the issue is in my mind, there were like 400,000. And I came down to one that binds it together, and it's respect. Because there isn't a lot of respect in the world for girls or for women, or at least not enough in enough places. And I have an answer for that, and it's an answer that every single panelist has mentioned. I have to confess to you that I started life as a school teacher. My mother was one and thought it was the most noble profession possible. So I followed her footsteps, but I was quickly diverted from that. I'm sure in my heart I'm still a teacher, but I diverted that when we lived in Africa. And when on my 27th birthday, I was working in the outpatient clinic of a maternity hospital in Nairobi. They did 100 deliveries a day. It was an absolutely fascinating place. But on my 27th birthday, I interviewed a woman who'd come for service. And she had come without her husband's signature. Being a fairly outrageous person, I had decided when I first worked there that having the piece of paper was a minor issue. In fact, who asks husbands for their wife's signature for any kind of health service? So I said, unless it's a law, I'm not going to do this. I was the only non-African who worked in this clinic, and I said, I'll take the risk if you're willing for me to take the risk. So she had no piece of paper, but she had 2 children, a new baby and her old new baby on her back. She'd gotten on a bus at 3:30. She hadn't eaten, and she waited in the sun for our clinic to start. When she came to me, she had to keep getting back in line to get to me. And when she got to me, I discovered that she too was 27. And she had had 11 pregnancies, and she only had 6 living children. And I thought, okay, this is it. This is something I want to do something about. We have. Women do deliver. You're going to deliver. There's no question about. It's just how we can help young women deliver the best they can. The answer, I believe, to that challenge of respect is education. There is absolutely no substitute for education. And so, given where I've been and the footsteps I've had, it's education generally and broadly, but it's also education about sexual and reproductive health care. In too much of the world, young girls and women really have little respect They're treated as second or third class people. And that means abuse, discrimination, neglect, child marriage for sure, early school dropout, lost opportunity, illness, disability, and often death. Because girls and young women are not respected, they're often, very often, not educated. And then because they're not educated, there's little respect. It's a cycle that just feeds on itself. So many governments don't invest in girls and women. There's little political will to do it. They haven't faced the benefits of investing in girls and women. They don't see the outcoming value. But this lack of vision cripples communities and nations. There's a fact which the ICRW came up with 3 years ago at the first Women Deliver conference. It's staggering what the world loses. $15 billion is lost every single year from lost productivity by women because of pregnancy and the disabilities that come with complications of pregnancy and childbirth. No country, no globe could really sustain a $15 billion shortfall. And that's what we do consistently. It has to stop. We know how to derail the cycle, and it's simple. It's investing in girls and women. And the key is education. We know that we've made major strides on the Millennium Development Goal to get girls in school. And now what has to happen is those girls have to stay in school. Boys do, girls need to. There's a critical moment when most girls have to leave school. And it's just at puberty when the value of education is the greatest. There are a lot of reasons for this. Sexual abuse at school we've heard about, it's pretty common. By teachers and students, there's a lack of privacy, there's pressure to marry, and frankly, there's just simply low expectations for investing in these girls. Girls aren't large children, and they're not mini adults. They have very special needs as they begin to mature. They do have health needs of adults, but they lack the authority and resource of all kinds to seek care. There are restrictions on unmarried girls and women that keep them out of health centers and schools. There are taboos on discussing sexual matters, keeping girls much less informed than boys. Family planning is often offered only to married women. We've made a great stride this year. There's a pretty bad fact that in the world, 215 million girls and women don't have access to contraceptive care. The reason this is such a giant stride is that it is no longer a fact only about married women. It's sexually active women who need protection. Child marriage is quite simply a child killer. The World Health Organization tells us that 36% of women in the developing world outside of China are married before the age 18. And as you heard from Sarah, adolescent girls 15 to 19 have just over a tenth of all births in the world, but more of them die from pregnancy-related causes than anything else. With the right skills and opportunities, we can invest in girls now. And when we do, that's an investment in their families later. If girls are able to stay in school, postpone marriage, delay family formation, build their capacity, they have more time to prepare for adulthood and they actively participate in the labor force before taking on family responsibilities. They and their children will have a different future. It's a fact that when girls go to school before they in fact begin childbearing, their children, and especially their girl children, also go to school. One family at a time, they can help fuel the economic growth for their countries. If for no other reason, girls need education and reproductive health education and care because of HIV and AIDS. It's the biggest young generation in the history of our planet. It's half the planet. And it needs to make education an opportunity and a right for all girls. Child marriage, in my view, ought to be defined as a human rights violation and barred by law. Many countries have begun to work on this, and with great outcoming effects. There's just no getting around it. Educated girls and women have better lives, and so do their families. I want to tell you of a study that was done a long time ago that's still true. It was done originally by a wonderful woman who was then at the World Bank, Nancy Birdsall. And she tracked what happened when girls were in school. And you could begin to see a difference in their lives at 4 years in school. When they reached 7 years in school, the trajectory went up dramatically. And here's how. Infant mortality declined. Maternal mortality declined. Family nutrition improved. Family income improved. There were set markers which were measurable. She measured them, and she found that the investment in girls in school seriously paid off. It's time for a global sea change. It's really important to take these huge steps because the effects will be huge. So I think it comes back to respect. When girls and women are educated, they're looked at totally differently by their mothers, by their mothers-in-law, by their husbands, and by the community. They look to them for leadership. You've heard wonderful examples, and they're true. They're really true. If I have one more minute, I want to tell you about a present that I got Monday of this week. It was a lunchbox. You know, those kinds that kids all over the world, in most of the world, take to school with lunch or a snack. It's a little metal box about that size with a handle. This lunchbox had writing all over it. It was a lunchbox sent by no ordinary person. It was a lunchbox sent by Queen Rania of Jordan, who's a total global champion for girls and for the education of girls. I made a list of what the lunchbox said because it's so true. 40 million girls are out of school. Education works. Education is a panacea. It's not a short-term fix. It's a long-term solution. Global education is a global dream. When you educate a girl, you give her the tools to lift her and her family out of poverty. Education can help erase poverty. It will change a child's life forever. Education equals opportunity. The opportunity to escape poverty. The opportunity to live healthily. The opportunity to hope. Education is a lifeline. It's our priority, our potential, our promise. Whoever you are, it's your right. When you educate a mother, You give her the knowledge to protect her health and to raise a stronger, smarter family. That's a lot to get on a lunchbox. But the fact is, it's absolutely true. So I think the challenge is to get girls to school, keep them there, and then the respect follows absolutely directly. Thank you.